The diner was quiet after the lunch rush when she walked in, her clothes worn, her eyes downcast, and her hands trembling slightly as she clutched her bag. She didn't sit at a table. Instead, she went straight to the counter and whispered, "Do you have any leftovers? Anything at all?" The young server blinked, caught off guard. Before she could answer, a deep voice came from the corner booth. "Leftovers?" The man set down his coffee cup, his sharp suit and polished shoes standing in stark contrast to the woman's weary figure. He was the restaurant's owner, and a celebrated chef known across the city. He leaned forward, studying her face. Something about her was hauntingly familiar. The woman shifted uneasily, avoiding his gaze. "I'm sorry, sir. I don't mean to bother anyone. I just haven't eaten since yesterday." The chef's heart tightened. His staff looked at him, waiting for his response. He could have turned her away like countless others might, but something in her tone stirred a memory he couldn't ignore. Years ago, when he was nothing but an apprentice with blistered hands and empty pockets, someone had quietly slid a warm plate of food toward him in the back of a crowded kitchen. A woman with the gentlest smile. And now, standing before him, asking for scraps, was that very same woman. He drew in a breath, realization crashing over him. "Do you remember me?" he asked softly. Her head snapped up, eyes wide with confusion. For a moment, she just stared at him, trying to place the face behind the polished suit and confident tone. "I'm sorry, sir," she whispered, shaking her head. "I don't think we've met." But the chef knew. He remembered the smell of roasted garlic and onions, the chaos of a cramped kitchen, and her kind voice telling him not to give up. Back then, she was a cook, just a few years older than him, working double shifts to support her family. "You once made me a meal," he said slowly, almost as though speaking the memory out loud. "It was a simple stew, but it felt like the first real food I'd had in weeks. I never forgot that kindness." Her lips trembled. She closed her eyes as if searching through years of buried memories. Then her shoulders sagged, and she gave a small, tired nod. "I used to cook for many apprentices. Some made it far, most didn't." She smiled faintly, bitterly. "Looks like you were one of the lucky ones." The chef swallowed hard. This woman, who had once kept him going with food and encouragement, was now standing before him hungry, asking for scraps. The injustice of it pierced him deeper than he expected. Around them, the diner grew quiet. Customers pretended not to listen, but every ear was tuned to the conversation. The chef rose from his seat, walked toward her, and said firmly, "No. You will not eat leftovers here. You will sit, and I'll cook for you myself." The woman gasped, her hand covering her mouth. Why would you do that for me?" He gave a small smile. "Because once you fed me when I was starving." The staff scrambled as the chef tied his apron and stepped into the kitchen himself, a rare sight that sent a buzz through the diner. He chose ingredients carefully, fresh vegetables, herbs, and cuts of meat usually reserved for the evening crowd. Every chop of the knife carried weight, every stir of the pot a quiet tribute. The woman sat nervously at a corner table. She pulled her worn coat tighter, unsure if she even belonged there. Her son, a thin boy with wide, watchful eyes, slipped in beside her and whispered, "Mom, is he really cooking for us?" She hushed him, her voice breaking. "Don't get your hopes up." Moments later, the chef himself emerged carrying steaming plates. The aroma of rosemary and garlic drifted through the room, turning heads. He set the food gently in front of her. "For you," he said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. The boy's eyes widened. "This is for us?" The chef crouched to the boy's level. "Yes. Your mom once gave me a meal when I had nothing. Now it's my turn." The woman shook her head, overwhelmed. "I don't understand. People don't do this. Not anymore." He met her gaze firmly. "They should. And today they will." The entire diner, once filled with whispers, now sat in reverent silence. The woman's eyes filled with tears as she lifted her fork, tasting the first warm bite. For the first time in a long while, She felt human again, seen, valued, remembered. The boy grinned as he dug in, and for a moment, the weight of their struggles lifted. The chef sat across from them, determination in his eyes. This wasn't charity. It was the beginning of something bigger. By the time they finished eating, the woman's hands had stopped trembling. Her cheeks carried color again, and her boy's laughter filled the once quiet diner. For the chef, watching them was like watching a faded photograph come to life. He leaned forward, his voice low but steady. "What happened to you? You were one of the strongest people I knew back then. You held the kitchen together when the rest of us were falling apart." Her eyes darkened, the weight of years pressing down. "Life happened," she whispered. "My husband left, the bills piled up. I lost the job, then the house. I thought I could manage. But when my boy got sick, everything collapsed. Now I'm just surviving." The chef's chest tightened. He saw the shame in her eyes, but more than that, he saw resilience. She hadn't given up. She was still standing, still fighting, even if just barely. "You gave me food when I had nothing," he said softly. "But it wasn't just the food. You gave me hope. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. That's why I kept going." Her eyes widened, tears brimming. "I never thought anyone even noticed." The diner manager approached cautiously. "Chef, the evening crowd, should we?" The chef raised a hand. "Cancel the evening service." His gaze never left hers. "Tonight this table is the most important service of my life." The boy tugged at his mother's sleeve. "Mom, see? You told me kindness comes back around." She let out a broken laugh, tears streaming freely now. For the first time in years, she believed it too. The next morning, the woman returned to the diner, still unsure if the kindness she'd witnessed was real or just a fleeting dream. She clutched her son's hand as they stepped through the door, ready to thank the chef and quietly disappear back into their hard reality. But instead of a meal, she was met with an envelope on the counter with her name written neatly across the front. Inside, she found a letter in the chef's careful handwriting. "You once gave me more than food, you gave me dignity. Now it's my turn. This isn't charity, it's repayment of a debt long overdue. I'd like to offer you a place in my restaurant, not as a guest, but as part of the family. If you're willing, come into the kitchen today. We'll start fresh together." Her hands shook as she read the words aloud. The staff gathered around, smiling knowingly. Her son's face lit up with excitement. "Mom! You can cook again! Like you used to!" She blinked rapidly, her chest rising with emotions she hadn't dared to feel in years. Hope, pride, belonging. Later that day, she stepped back into the kitchen where it all began. The familiar clang of pots and the scent of herbs wrapped around her like an embrace. The chef met her there, apron tied, eyes filled with respect. "No more leftovers," he said warmly. "Only new beginnings." She smiled through her tears, sliding her arms into a fresh apron. For the first time in a long while, she wasn't just surviving, she was rebuilding. And as her boy peeked through the kitchen door, watching his mother come alive again, he whispered to himself, "Kindness really does come back."